Ron's broadcast. Hello. Let's see who's first. Let's see who's going to be first on the scene here. Let's see who shows up first. I see two people. Veronica Hart, first one in. Crystal, second. New York City Urbanista, thank you for joining. Hi, Open Minds, thank you for joining. Charmaine Cole, Charmaine, yes, Charmaine from Australia. Hello. Mankind, how are you, Mark? Good to see you. Cheryl, thank you for joining. Hi, Cindy. Leanne, Michelle is in the house. Hi, guys. Amanda, good to see you. Thank you so much. And as you guys could see at the bottom of the screen, a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel over the past couple of months. So a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you so much. Gonna run in the kitchen. Okay, no problem, no problem. Good to see everybody. Thank you all for joining. Hi, Betty. Hi. Big hugs right back to you. Good to see everybody. Thank you for joining. It is 11:55 a.m. on the East Coast here in New York City. Duty Ron, retired New York City police detective, as always, reporting for duty on YouTube. So great to see everybody joining in on the chat. Thank you for coming in. I know you guys have a lot of choices of people who you can view at any given time. So that's why I want to say thank you, and I appreciate everybody coming on in. There is a lot of people that you guys, there's many choices. So greatly appreciated that you guys are all in here. So let me quickly share the broadcast. I'm not going to be on long. I want to talk to you guys about day six in the Karina Vetrano trial. So day six is in the books. That concludes Monday's testimony. It is Tuesday already, almost here in New York City, almost Tuesday. So we're going to talk about Monday's testimony. Hello, Meg. Good to see you in California. Thank you for joining. TTNZ over in New Zealand. Katrina Porter, great to see you. Thank you. Hi, Karen. How are you, Karen? Joey Brooklyn is in the house. So we're going to talk about the day six in the Karina Vetrano trial. I'm going to wait until I make a post. I just made a post on YouTube. Hello, Sissy. Good to see you from Tennessee. Thank you for joining. Meg, thank you for being a friend and a great Patreon supporter of the channel. And thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for contributing to keeping this channel going. So thank you so much for that. Nice to see you too, Helen. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for coming on in, guys. So lots to talk about. It was a busy day in the courtroom. Detective Brown, who was the arresting officer and interview and interrogation detective on this case. For those of you who are joining who know nothing about Karina Vetrano, she was a New York City a New York City jogger who was killed August 2nd of 2016 while out for a late afternoon, early evening jog. She was killed by a savage attacker. In a span of 5 minutes, her life was snuffed out through beating and through strangulation. And we also believe that she was sexually assaulted. So this is a case that resulted in a hung jury. I've spoken about it many a time. I believe that there was many different factors that brought the hung jury on, but we're here into the second trial, and day six is going on in the second trial. We're into day six already, and what occurred on Monday, well, it's still Monday here. We still got 2 more minutes to conclude Monday and going into Tuesday. But what occurred on Monday the 25th is the videotaped confession at the precinct and the second videotaped confession by the perpetrator, by the alleged criminal. The jury got to listen to both of the confessions. There you go. So I'm trying to stay focused on what I want to get out, and it's only going to take me a short period of time to get this out to you. So, yeah, Karina Vetrano was an avid jogger. She was very into health and fitness, and she was a really successful young woman, and it was a really, really horrible turn of events that happened on August 2nd in 2016. 4 a.m. over in the UK. Okay, well, thank you for being in here at late. Good evening, Laura Daly. Thank you so much for coming in. Bella Mia, thank you for joining. Hello, hello, hello. So, yeah, this is a very tragic event. A lot of different things happen. There's a lot of moving parts to this. But thank you for joining in Vero Beach. Thank you so much for coming in. And as it says at the bottom of the screen there, thank you for uh, subscribing to the channel, to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for subscribing. So Karina Vetrano, day 6 in the trial. The 2 videotaped confessions the jury got to hear today. The defense, of course, says that those confessions were coerced from the police detectives. The investigators forced that confession out of the defendant. Obviously, they're saying their client is not guilty. Hello, Cat in a Hat. Love the screen name, Cat in a Hat. And always good to see everybody in here. Hi, Janie. Thank you so much. She was absolutely beautiful. A beautiful, beautiful young lady. 30 years old, master's degree in speech pathology, and her father was a retired FDNY. That's the fire department, New York City, civil servant, first responder, as Meg has mentioned there. It's Karina Vetrano, Vetrano. I know that was just a typo. Vetrano is her dad, like I said, was a 9/11 first responder, and he is now retired. Hello, Duty Ryan. Good to see you. Thank you for reporting for duty. Hi, Black Rose. Thank you for coming in. Cindy, thank you for coming in. Farwick, always great to see everybody. So the defense is saying that their client is innocent and did not participate in any of these heinous acts that he's charged with. They're breaking apart the confession, saying that he was mentally tortured by being kept in the interview room with no windows. All of the interview rooms in every precinct throughout New York City are all for safety reasons. They don't have a window so someone could jump out of it or escape, or maybe get information or communicate with somebody on the outside. When you're in that interview room and you're being interviewed and interrogated by the police, you're suspected of committing a crime. So you're not afforded windows and flowers and um, you know all kinds of goodies. It's basic bare bones. It's a table. It's a table and chairs. You're provided with water and tissues if you need it, and that's basically how it is throughout every precinct in Manhattan and every precinct throughout the 5 boroughs. So our interview and interrogation room are a room to be focused in on getting out a story or getting a confession or getting an interview down for court, so to be used in court in a prosecution. So these are rooms that are very small, and it's not a torture chamber, and it's not anything that was there waiting for this guy to give him less than ideal situation. He, in fact, for the first 10 or 11 hours, did not want to speak to the detectives at all. He did ask to call his mom, but he's a 20-year-old adult at the time, so he was not afforded an immediate phone call. Most of the times when you have someone that's suspected of committing a heinous act or a crime, um, there's nothing that in the law that states that you have to give him that phone call immediately. You do give him the phone call, but it doesn't have to be done immediately. And the defense argues that he wasn't able to call anybody on the outside. He's arrested for murder. He was arrested, under arrest for murder. So we don't usually afford numerous phone calls to someone who is accused of murder. It's just not commonplace to just say, "Oh, sure. Do you want to call a friend? Do you want to call your mom or dad? Do you want to, you know?" If he had asked to call or talk to his lawyer or contact a lawyer, that would be a different story. But he did not do that. So the defense is saying that he was denied a phone call and he was mentally tortured, and that he finally gave in after 12 hours and gave the police what they wanted to hear. What they left out of their defense, what the defense left out is that the detectives gave him food, water, drink, and he even requested to watch cartoons on a TV. So the detectives in the squad, I went over this once before, let him watch cartoons on the Cartoon Network on the TV in the detective squad room while he was inside his holding cell, and he sat there on a bench and watched cartoons for 2 hours, and then after 2 hours of watching cartoons, he said, "I want to talk. Now I'm ready to talk." And he spoke to the detectives and gave a full confession, and then he spoke to the district attorney and gave another second full confession. Hello, Michelle. Good to see you. So a lot of people break apart the police and claim that the police, you know, mentally tortured this kid and forced a confession out of him. That was the furthest thing from the truth. That's the job of the defense, to try to create a facade so the jury feels that the confession was not forthcoming, and it was coerced out of him, and it's just ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous defense, and I don't feel that it actually worked in the first trial. Hello, Honey Badger. Thank you for joining. I don't think that their defense of that the confession was mentally drawn out of the defendant. I don't think that that's what got the mistrial going. And I spoke about this the last broadcast. He, the judge, quickly declared a hung jury, and the actual jurors, the jury foreman of the first trial, they were shocked when the judge did that. They were able to interview months later with a news organization. They weren't able to give their names or talk about the case, but they were able to tell news that they were shocked that the judge declared a mistrial just after 1 hour of deliberations. You don't declare a hung jury after an hour of deliberations. It was, and the judge got a lot of flack for that in the court system. His own peers even were vocal about he didn't provide them with an Allen ruling. The Allen ruling is you tell the jury, listen, we'll give you as much of the evidence to reevaluate as you need. We'll give you enough evidence and enough time to reevaluate everything, and just look it over again and give it a once over again. And he never charged them with that. He never told them that. Hello, Gail. So that is standard procedure when a jury foreman says we've got a hung jury. We can't come to an agreement. The judge in all cases is supposed to give an Allen charging. It's to give them instructions on an Allen ruling, I think they call it, or an Allen charge. The judge is supposed to tell them, look, go back over the evidence. Like I said, go back over the evidence, reevaluate anything that you need. We'll give you to help you bring a verdict, either guilty or not guilty, forward. So um, even the jury foreman, when interviewed by the news, said we were shocked that there was a hung jury. They were so ready. It was 7 guilty and 5 not guilty. 7 guilty, 5 not guilty. When they first passed, right before they passed the note, it was reverse. It was 5 guilty, and 7 not guilty. But they re-reviewed some extra evidence, and then they came to 7-5, 7 guilty, 5 not guilty, and then they sent the note to the judge. The jury foreman sent a note that it was 7-5, and they were thinking he was just going to give them more time, and he declared the hung jury. And it was shocking. It was shocking to everybody. Aloha, Leslie. Thank you for coming in. Hello, H. Wolf. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in. So that being said, guys, that was a very young jury, but I feel that that younger jury would have came back with a verdict if they were given more time. However, that's not the case. So we can't cry over spilled milk and we can't dwell on the past. So I am talking about the current and in the now and in the present. I feel that I personally, I went to court last Monday. Hello, Laura. I went to court last Monday and I was sitting right in front of the jurors. I was sitting right in front of the jurors and I got a great vibe from them that they are going to get it right this time. They are very attentive, very invested, and the jury foreman happens to be a retired New York City corrections officer. So I don't know how many years he's been retired, but they selected him, and I think it's going to be a fair and honest verdict, and I think there's going to be a verdict of guilty. It's going to be a guilty verdict on first and second degree murder charges, and perhaps either a guilty or a not guilty on, I'm like 50-50 on the sexual assault. Um, so I'm not quite sure that they'll get a guilty verdict on the sexual assault charges, but I definitely know in my mind the murder first and second degree, they will get guilty verdicts on that. And then he will be life in prison without the chance of parole, hopefully on the two charges. So they listened to both confessions. There was a confession given to the detectives, and then the detectives called the district attorney, and then the district attorney came, and then there was a second confession. So I'm going to read verbally. I'm going to read verbally one of the articles that I pulled up out of the news. I'm going to read a verbal to you guys on what I read from one of our local newspapers here. And this basically just goes over. This just basically goes over everything everything that happened here in day 5. It's just everything that really has transpired in day 5. Um, but in a nutshell, it really just goes over, like I said, the testimony from the detectives, and the defense asked the detectives silly questions like, why didn't you afford him a phone call to his mother? And based on the law, it's not like that's your God-given right to get a phone call. If he asked to contact an attorney, that's a different story. At no time did he ask to contact an attorney. He wanted to speak to his mom. So he wanted to speak to his parents or his mom or dad or whatever it was. And they told him they would let him get the call, but they'd had to do the paperwork. So there's nothing wrong. I've done that myself hundreds of times on arrests. I've done that hundreds of times with no legal ramifications. There's nothing in the law that says that you're afforded a phone call immediately. You're afforded a phone call at the police department's discretion. You know, so it is what it is, guys. So for me, New York does not have the death penalty. Unfortunately, New York does not have the death penalty. So don't, Joey, don't get caught up in that. That's nonsense. I just ignore that. Um, so so let me just pull this up real quick. Let me pull this up real quick. Um, Here it is, Daily News. Let me shut that back light. I like it with the background dark. I like it a little bit better with the background dark. Let me know what you guys think of that. If that's too dark for you, then I'll put the light back on. But so I like it this way a little bit better. I like it this way a little bit better. But no death penalty in New York State. No death penalty. We have Mario Cuomo as our governor, and it is no death penalty here in New York. Okay, so it says the tape. This is right from from our local news. Right from the local news. Okay, Mima, you got it. Thank you. You're welcome, Tony W. My pleasure. My pleasure. Here we go. A taped confession from the man accused of killing jogger Karina Vetrano was played for the second Queens jury on Monday. That's today. And prosecutors are hoping it has a better result than the first time they showed it. Defendant Chanel Lewis was shaking as the confession was played in Queens Supreme Court. So it says right here in the first paragraph, the defendant, Chanel Lewis, who is 22 years old now, was shaking as the confession played in New York City Queens Supreme Court, even though he clearly had seen the video before. His mother set aside her Bible, the defendant's mother set aside her Bible and looked at the screen with intent, as though it was the first time she had ever seen her son, Chanel Lewis, describe the events leading up to the jogger's death. The defense for Chanel Lewis claims the confessions were coerced and that the videos were not enough to convict Lewis. But Detective Barry Brown, and coincidentally, guys, Detective Barry Brown was requested. The defendant, the perpetrator in this crime, Chanel Lewis, said he would not speak to a white detective. Now let that sink in for a minute, guys. Right now, with this case, there is so much racial, and I don't mention this, I won't engage in this, but I have to say this. There's so much racial tensions between the two neighborhoods, between East New York, where this defendant is from, and his family. His family right away turned it racial. And there's a lot of organizations that are jumping on the racial bandwagon. But this defendant immediately, hello, Cecilia, good to see you, Black Rose, thank you for that. This defendant immediately said to the people who arrested him, the police officers, the detectives, I will not speak to a white detective, period. So, if somebody can explain the wrenches to that, Elizabeth, I would appreciate that. Elizabeth, in the chat, someone will explain it to you. Okay, so he requested a black detective, and he would not confess or talk to anybody other than a black detective. So I don't know where the race and the discrimination comes in. I don't know where everybody in the media and some people who are trying to defend this murderer are saying that the police racially profiled him. There was none of that went on. There was none of that. That is just somebody's perception. So I want to keep that, I want to just keep that in mind here. Howard Beach, where this crime occurred, is a very, very white neighborhood. That doesn't mean that it's a white racist neighborhood. And when the words were said on the 911 dispatch, when two people called in a suspicious call about a suspicious individual, the police lieutenant, that was Lieutenant Russo, he just said there was a male who was acting suspicious. He actually didn't even say it was a male black, because when he was questioned, he said that the perpetrator had his hood up and he couldn't tell if he was white, Hispanic, or black. He said he was dark skinned, but he didn't know if he was black or Hispanic. So the defense also tried to rip apart that lieutenant and saying that he racially profiled him because he was black, and in the neighborhood he didn't belong there. But the second call to 911 the very next day, that was on March 30th and then March 31st of 2016, that was 2 months before this criminal act took place. The second caller said, and it was a business owner, he said the guy is in people's backyards and he doesn't belong here. He doesn't belong in the backyards doing what he's doing. People misconstrued that like he was saying he didn't belong here because he was black. So this whole thing turned into this black-white thing. Listen, this is a black male who came into a very Italian white neighborhood, stood out like a sore thumb. He stood out like a sore thumb. There's no question about that. But this is not about black and white. This is about somebody who committed a heinous act, a heinous crime. And it doesn't matter what his skin color is. It's just people want to turn it into this racial thing where the police are profiling. Hello, Kim. Good to see you, Kim Lowry. Thank you for coming in. So Detective Barry Brown had a new audience on this second trial. This is the detective who the defendant confessed to. So Detective Barry Brown took the stand, and he walked the jurors through the hours that Chanel Lewis spent in Queens in the holding cell in the detective squad while he watched cartoons until he was ready to talk to the detective. So Detective Brown told the jurors, we let the defendant watch cartoons at his request. We gave him food and water and anything he needed if he needed to go to the bathroom. So here's what was read in court. Here's the parts of the confession that was played in court. And this is the defendant. This is the defendant, the actual perpetrator in the crime, Chanel Lewis. He says, I got angry, says Chanel in the video. I went red. I completely saw red. One thing led to another, Lewis said. He began to hit Karina Vetrano in the face about 5 times before dumping her in the bushes. He dumped her body in the bushes. These are his words. He says in the video that he didn't tell anybody what he did. I got scared, this is the defendant, and I threw her in the bushes. He threw her away in the bushes. Detectives asked him about sexually assaulting Vetrano, which the defendant immediately denies. He said when he dragged her into the bushes, her shorts and her shirt came down. He said when he dragged her into the bushes, her shorts came down mysteriously over her shorts and her panties. I saw the crime scene photos, guys. This female, her whole leg on her on her left side, the whole leg and her panties were pulled all the way down off of her, down past her legs, and she was just, her panties and her running shorts, the tight running shorts that she was wearing, were only affixed onto one side of her body. So he says that he dragged her into the weeds and that's how her shorts came down. That's BS. There's no way that could have happened. Completely pulled off one side of her body. And then her running bra, her sports bra, was pulled all the way down to her belly. I saw the photographs. It wasn't easy to look at, but I saw the photographs in court on day one. The crime scene photos of her dead, lifeless body, beaten about the face, and it was not pretty to see. She definitely had lacerations all over her neck from him choking her out, and it was dirt. This road, this area where she was jogging, was not a paved road. It was just like dirt and gravel. So it looked like, her knees and her legs and everything were all dirtied. I couldn't tell about the abrasions, and these weren't the autopsy photos that I saw. I just saw the crime scene photos from out at the crime scene. I'm going back this week. I'm going to go back. I vowed to go back one day a week, and I'll also be there when the verdict is read. So again, guys, this is the confession that was the audio. I have the confession on my website, dutyron.com. The complete confession is on my website at dutyron.com. I also have an uploaded broadcast of his total confession. If you want to go listen to it, you can go listen to it. Agreed, Cindy. Agreed. Hi, girly gamer. Were the marks from dragging her? Then beating her face? Was the marks from dragging her? The marks were on her face from beating. He beat her about the face so hard that he broke her teeth. Her front teeth were broke. So she had enough injuries all over her from being beaten and also from trying to fight this guy off. Don't forget this. The autopsy reports are not public because there's a trial going on, Michelle. The autopsy reports will be made public after there's a verdict. But at this time, none of the evidence is made public because it's all logged in as evidence in a trial. So you won't be able to see any of this stuff until there's a verdict. So detectives asked him about sexually assaulting the victim, which he denies. He says that he dragged her into the bushes and her shorts came down, and I didn't want to touch anything after that, he said. So he says the whole confrontation, this is the defendant speaking, this is the perpetrator, the whole confrontation lasted about 5 minutes, and that she scratched his face when fighting back. His face was so scratched that his mom asked him what happened, and this is his words, I told my mom I fell, and that's how I got the scratches on my face. So, so that was about it. I mean, I have the audio. I don't want to bore you guys and play this audio. If you want to go and listen to it, you can listen to it on my website at dutyron.com, or you could go here and watch my replay that's up. So this 30-year-old woman went for a nightly jog, which she had done so many different times, never thinking that it was going to be her last time. Thank you for making the first live. Good to see you, Linda. Thank you. You and I communicate more on the comment section than the actual live. So thank you for making the live, Linda. Thank you so much for being in here. So, so that's the situation here. Her father, as you guys know, Phil Vetrano, her father, found her body with the detectives when they were searching that night, I think around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And her own father found her body, and obviously he went over to the body and he hugged his daughter. And that's another argument for the defense to say that the crime scene was tainted by the father, which is nonsense, because the DNA evidence was still able to be collected from her neck, from him choking her to death. And there was DNA evidence on the cell phone that he took and threw. And there was also DNA under her fingernails from her scratching his face. So, the defense, their job is to try to disprove the case against their client. And they're going against the state and trying to disprove all of the good evidence that they have. Hello, Hio. Welcome in. Thank you for joining. So this is a very, very touching case, because you have a 30-year-old woman whose life was snuffed out early and quick. And, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence. And I think that the new jury will see and come together with a proper verdict. I'm doing good, Matty boy. How are you? Good to see you, Matt. Thank you so much for coming in. Yeah, so her own father recovered her body. They did do a rape kit, Chrissy. They did do a rape kit, Chris 22, and her vaginal area had lacerations internally, and her anus had lacerations to it. Now, that could have been a finger, that could have been a penis, it could have been an object, it could have been anything. Any type of foreign object going into those areas can create a laceration. So she had evidence that she was sexually assaulted. They don't know how it happened, because the only two people that were there were the perpetrator and the deceased. So I heard it first day, the opening statements. I heard the prosecution, I heard the district attorney mention about the sexual assault. And if you want to listen to that, that is also in my replays and on my website. Again, dutyron.com, or right here on my channel. You guys can listen to the prosecutor tell you exactly what I just said. She had lacerations internally on the vagina and also in her anus. So it coincides with her pants being pulled off of one of her legs all the way down, and her sports bra down past her belly. I saw it. It was down all the way down towards her belly button. Her sports bra was not just ripped down in a dragging into the weeds. It was pulled all the way down to her belly button. So it is what it is. I don't go on conspiracy theories. I hear you, Elizabeth, but it doesn't matter about semen or evidence of that sort, because for someone to be sexually assaulted, you don't need a penis to go in there, Elizabeth. I told you that in the comments. I'm not going to mention it again. And it's not really, it's not something that I feel that needs to be discussed. I know as a professional that any adamant object, any type of object, whether it's a finger, a stick, anything could be put inside that area to cause a laceration internally. An internal laceration in both areas in your privates doesn't happen just naturally. It happens when you get assaulted. So I'm not, I understand and respect your theory. I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo it. So at the end of it all, guys, she was sexually assaulted. You don't need semen or any type of serology of that sort to have that type of crime happen. So at the end of the day, I've been doing my investigations and detective work for over 2 decades. For 20 plus years, this has been my job as a professional. I'm telling you right now, I've been on cases and trials, not quite as violent and vicious as this, but I've seen women and men sexually assaulted, and you don't need a penis to do it. Okay? So you guys we're all adults here. Use your imagination. Any type of object inserted in those areas causes a laceration. You don't need semen or any type of serology. It's just not necessary. So let's just put that to bed and let's just forget about that. Okay, the evidence is the evidence, and everybody can sit here and say coulda, shoulda, woulda, could be this, could be that, but it is what it is, guys. I'm a straight shooter, and I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, and I don't sit and try to think of outlandish scenarios. This is a pretty straightforward crime. Here's a defendant, guys. Let me just put this to bed just for a second here too. He made the statement at 15, okay? But again, in the court of law, you can't hold that against somebody. You need hard evidence to get a conviction, okay? So let me put this a little bit more in perspective for you guys. Okay? There you go, Meg. So let me put this in perspective for you guys. This defendant, okay, August 2nd, Karina Vetrano was murdered. Okay? This defendant, on his cell phone, when he was arrested in February of 2017, 6 months after he committed this crime, the detectives took his phone and they did computer forensics on his phone. So August 2nd, he brutally murdered Karina Vetrano. August 3rd, he downloaded sexy pictures of the deceased on his phone. He downloaded on his phone and used Google searches on DNA evidence. How do you get convicted on DNA evidence? What is a prosecutor's job? And then when he was arrested, he was putting in searches of, does God forgive you? Second chance. What's the sentence for murder in New York? This is after he was the DNA was taken from him, right before he got arrested. So the day after the crime, he's Googling and downloading pictures of this deceased woman on his phone. So if he had nothing to do with it, I mean, really, guys, I don't see anybody with any bit of common sense that would say that this guy had nothing to do with this. It's just too coincidental, guys. He was given a mental health hearing to see if he's fit for trial, girly gamer, and he's fit for trial. And he was given his defense, his own defense attorneys. The lawyers that are defending him are not saying that he's not mentally capable to stand trial. So we're not speaking about the Watts case, but I appreciate your comment. But we're not really talking about that here. This is a perpetrator, an alleged perpetrator who committed a heinous act committed murder, and on his phone, numerous searches come up pointing to every ounce of my body, every bit of my detective skills, and every bit of my intuition as a law enforcement professional tells me 100% that this guy is the killer. And I'll tell you the same thing about O.J. Simpson. I'll tell you the same thing about O.J. Simpson. No disrespect, Elizabeth. You're welcome. Your opinions are always welcome, and I appreciate it. Don't feel bad about voicing your opinions, but I thought that I answered your question in the comments, and I did write a whole big thing to you back in the comments. But I don't have any problems with you asking asking these questions. No problem whatsoever. Ron, is that considered evidence? The Googling, it is. It's not evidence, but it shows his intents. It shows it's presented to the jury. All of that stuff is presented to the jury, but it's not actual evidence that is going to get a guilty conviction. It just piles it up. It piles up all of what he did following those days. And also, too, hello, Anamone. Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. I hope I said that name right. I don't know if I got it right. Did they have his DNA? If they did that, it should be easy to solve. Yes, girly gamer. They have DNA. This murder victim, she fought him back. She fought him, scratched his face, scratched him up with her nails, and the autopsy, when the medical examiner did the autopsy, underneath her fingernails, they got DNA. But there was no match to the DNA until he was arrested. There was no hit on the DNA database. So for 6 months, we had no perpetrator until this guy got arrested. They took a DNA swab from the inside of his mouth, and it was 100% match. Hi, Susan. How are you? Good to see you, Sue. Thank you for joining. So, guys, I apologize if I missed any of the comments. He had minor criminal records for urinating in public, drinking in public, disorderly conduct, but nothing major. He had nothing major, but he was only 20 years old. He's 20 years old. So, some 20-year-olds have a big rap sheet, but he didn't. He didn't. He had a bunch of quality of life summonses, And apparently he was a torture to his neighborhood. His neighbors he was tortured. He used to torture his neighborhood. Could his Google search be considered, it's used against him in his trial, but it's not criminal. It's not criminal to research those things, but it shows part of his guilt by presenting those searches. It shows that he was feeling guilty about it. He was asking if the Lord forgives you after committing murder. And when you see those kind of searches, and those were allowed to be admissible in court, and it's everything for the jury to look and try to have reasonable cause to come up with a guilty verdict. So nobody tortured him. Nobody tortured him at all. He was treated very well. Glad to see you too, Charlie. Thank you for coming in. Who else is here? Mary Westenberg. Thank you so much. Good to see you too. So I'm going to take a couple of questions. I'll take a couple more questions from some people. I wasn't looking at the comments. I was just kind of scanning the comments, but I'll look at some of the comments. But just understand, I can only answer one question at a time. So hold the questions. Let me answer them one at a time. There you go, Catherine. I hear you. Hi, Alyssa. Good to see you. Good to see you, Alyssa Tallman. Thank you so much. There was no motive. This was a random act of violence. A random act of violence, and he admitted in his confession that he was having a fight with his family. He argued with his mom. Hold on with the questions for a second. He was fighting with his mom prior to this, and he was angry with his neighbors for playing loud music, and he admitted that he went to the park to blow off some steam. He was very angry, and then he came upon her and took his anger out on him. And he says this is his own words in his confession, that he ran into her and he just took his anger out on her and beat her to death, and then choked her to death. He beat her so hard that he broke her front teeth, guys. So he had a very deep hatred for women, documented from when he was 15 years old. He told a guidance counselor in school that he wanted to kill all women. He wanted to stab all women at 15. So, I don't know, does this carry on? 3 years later, he committed this crime, 19 years old, going on 20. So, this is what we're dealing with here, guys. This is what you're dealing with. So, is he still being held? He definitely is still being held. He is definitely still being... He hasn't seen the light of day, Matt, since his arrest in February 2017. He's been in jail for 2 years. Any reports of CPS when he was a child? No reports. It would be out. If there were reports, it would be all over the media. No. The answer is no. And his hand was injured. His hand, the doctor that treated him at the hospital said it was classic sign of a boxing injury. He hurt his hand so badly, and it was so infected because he broke her teeth with his hand. He beat her very bad. The crime scene photos were really bad. My gut feeling on the trial, Mima, is that there will be a guilty verdict. And I will be there in the courtroom when the verdict is read. Yeah, it's possible, Linda. It's possible that he has committed other crimes and it just didn't get reported. Good. Should be in jail. Yes, he's been in jail ever since. Even when there was the hung jury, he was still in jail. How did the injury to his hand come about with him going to the hospital? He had to seek medical attention the very next day, Bella. That's how severe his injury was. He went to the hospital the next day, and when the doctors questioned him, he said that he fell down in the park. I remember the story. I followed it initially. I'm watching from Boston. Wouldn't get all the updates. You're welcome, Michelle. You're welcome. Hello from Corpus Christi. Good to see you. Wondering, is Karina Vetrano's killer mentally slow? He may be, but he was given a mental health hearing and he was deemed fit to stand trial. I think 100% he did it. What's his IQ? I don't know. And I really don't care what his fucking IQ is. And I'm not saying that to you, girly gamer, but I don't care what his IQ is. All I care about is that there's evidence, outstanding evidence against him, and that he is guilty of this crime. And you could say whatever you want about me, but this is my professional. I'm saying it right now that this jury is going to come back with a guilty verdict. And it might not be guilty on the sexual assault charges, but it's definitely going to be guilty in the murder first and second degree. You heard it right here. And if I'm wrong, I'll say I was wrong. But I don't think I'm going to be wrong. So they arrested him 6 months after the murder. Yes, girly gamer. They arrested him 6 months after they questioned him. They asked him for a DNA sample. He gave them a DNA sample. They tested his DNA, and there was a 100% match on the DNA recovered on the female, underneath her skin, on the female victim, and the whole thing. Hello, Darlene Wolf. Good to see you. He knew right from wrong. That's for sure. Yeah. No problem. No problem, Lane. No problem. So there was a hung jury first time around. Ron, there's a difference between intellectual disability and insanity. Yes, there's a huge difference, Linda. Huge. So there's none of that is involved here. None of it is involved. So. Sherry, I don't understand the question that you said. The trial's going to last probably. The trial's going to last probably another 2 weeks. Sometime in April. Veggie Vibe says, I need a hair. What? I need a hair down scope after this. I need a hair down. Oh boy. You're killing me. How's his behavior been in jail? He has been All right, let me give you a couple of things. Joe Schmo, hi Ron. He knows right from wrong, and that is the most important thing, not the IQ. Yeah, see, I don't pay attention to those details. Those details mean shit to me because if you're fit to stand trial and a judge orders a mental health hearing and you pass it in corrections, then I don't have. You're not going to get that. This poor kid out of me, and I don't think anybody's looking for that. But you're not going to get that once the court of law says that this person is deemed fit to stand trial. Then all of that shit about IQ means nothing to me. I am interested in bringing evil to justice. Part of our jobs in law enforcement and in the prosecutor's office with the district attorney is to get a conviction and to bring justice for the family. You have a murder victim here and we have a perpetrator in custody. We have DNA match, we have a confession, we have everything that puts this guy in this park. All of his cell phone pings for months and months prior and months leading up to this crime show him in that park. He frequented that park. He was there a lot. He went there to blow off steam because it was a remote area. He could go in there and do whatever he had to do or whatever he had to do. And he ran into this girl that fateful day and took and snubbed her life short right there. And for no, the only reason he did it is because he was angry. He was angry with his mother. He was angry with his neighbors, and he went over there to blow off some steam. His words, not ours. That was the defendant's words in his confession. I went there to blow off steam, and he certainly did blow off steam by killing a woman and pulling her pants down and doing whatever he did to her. God only knows. So what we do know is that she was sexually assaulted. She was choked around the neck, bruising all over her neck, bad bruising. I saw the photos. And dragged her in and punched her in the face so bad that he broke her front teeth. He cracked her front teeth. Chrissy, I explained the hung jury earlier in the broadcast, but for you and for everybody else, I will repeat why there was a hung jury. The defense was able to create reasonable doubt by questioning and saying that his confession was coerced and that he was mentally tortured and he just gave them what they wanted to hear. They also said that the father tainted the crime scene by holding his daughter. They also said that the DNA is not 100%, which when it is, there's all DNA experts that came up, but the judge issued a hung jury prematurely in the first trial. The actual jurors, the jury foreman, off the record, said that if we were given more time to deliberate, that we would have came back with a verdict. She didn't say whether it was guilty or not guilty, but the judge kind of jumped the gun here. He declared a hung jury too fast, and it's well documented throughout the community in the courts. There was other judges that were critical of this Judge Aloise and said that he did that too fast, and he didn't even give them an Allen ruling. The Allen ruling, I don't know if it's called a ruling or if it's instructions. It's called Allen instructions. He was supposed to give them instructions, and the instructions are, if you have a hung jury, you're supposed to instruct them as a judge, go back and look at all the evidence one more time. We'll give you whatever you want. We'll give you whatever time you need, but go back and look at it again. And he didn't do that. He just automatically declared a hung jury. And it was right around Thanksgiving, and everybody said that he wanted to just have a Thanksgiving holiday and not have this drag out. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I read. I don't buy that story, but that's what people were talking about, that this judge just wanted to wrap up his holiday and go about his business. He was just he was just not having it. I don't believe that, because I believe that he made a mistake and that he prematurely called a hung jury, and he didn't do the Allen charging. He didn't talk to him about the Allen ruling at all. That's documented. Those are facts. So I feel that if he would have given that first jury time, it's the same judge. It's the same judge, because they don't rip judges off cases unless there's something really bad. He did make that mistake, and he did man up to it and said he made the mistake. So it wasn't a crime that he didn't do that, but that is procedure. That's what you're supposed to do, and he didn't do that. He didn't do that. What percentage of the jury was for or against? It was 7 guilty, 5 not guilty, girly gamer. 7 to 5. How are the parents? How do you think the parents are, Charlie? The parents are distraught. They have to go over this now a second time, see their daughter in the crime scene photos. I turned around. The mother was right behind me in the pews, and she couldn't even look, obviously, at the crime scene photos. They were all distraught, guys. Thank you for the super chat, Belinda. Thank you. Thank you so much for that super chat. Appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Sorry this is off topic. Duty Ron, but I have finally emailed as promised. No need, no rush to reply. Thank you, Belinda. I'll look for it. I'll look for it. Yeah, they were, Charlie, they were distraught. I looked back, and everybody in that second row was all leaned over and crying. They were like, it was like dominoes. They were just all leaned over in the pews crying and upset. It was horrible. Horrible. So they have to go through this all over again, and they're there every day in that courtroom. So I'm going to go this week. I think I'm going to go on Wednesday. I think Wednesday during the day, I'm going to go to court. Today is Tuesday now. I think I'll go on Wednesday, and I'll see what's going on, and I'll report, guys, live from the court, outside the courtroom, obviously. I'll report to you live outside the courthouse at the end. I will stay for the morning and afternoon session, and I'll keep you up to date on, you know, I got a good look at the jury. I was looking while the prosecutor was doing his opening statement. You can't record it. It's illegal. It's against the law, girly gamer. If I wanted to get arrested, then I would do that. But I don't want to get arrested because I'm a law-abiding citizen. It's against the law. You can't do it. But I can give you secondhand what I hear. You know, I'm not gonna do anything to jeopardize the case. The news reports. There's an embedded news team inside the court every day. But I'm going to go on Wednesday. If all goes well, I'll go Wednesday, and I will give you guys a good once over on what I've observed. But like I said, I was able to see the juror's face. They were right in front of me. So I'm sitting in the first row, and the jury box is right here. So I was watching for their mannerisms when the prosecutor was giving his opening statement. So I was not looking at the prosecutor. I was listening to what the prosecutor was saying, and I was watching all the jurors. I was looking for body language and facial expressions, and I got to tell you, I got to stay away from the tickets. I got to tell you, when I was hearing the prosecutor give his opening statement, which is available on my YouTube channel and on my website, dutyron.com, the faces on all the jurors were at times grimacing, and some of them were shaking their heads. And I've never seen a jury do this. I've never seen a jury so involved in it. The actual jury foreman, who's the corrections officer, he was making faces and going like this, and at one point he went like this. So the things that they were, the reactions I was seeing from the jury was good. It was good for a conviction, but that was so early on. And then when the defense spoke, it wasn't the same. They weren't connected to that defense. The Asian female, they were not connected to her the same way. They were locked in on the prosecutor. Yes, Janet. Yes, very powerful. So, guys, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, it says thank you for subscribing with a bunch of hearts and a star and a thumbs up and a prayer. That's my way of saying thanks. I created that little writing on the bottom of the screen. It's right here in my chest area. It's my way of saying thank you so much for for subscribing, for supporting my channel, for positively interacting. All of that stuff means a lot to me. I'm glad you enjoyed the bird broadcast today. If you guys didn't see my previous broadcast, I was at the bird store with Popeye getting, he was having a spa day. So for those of you who joined on that live broadcast, thank you for that. And to everyone who's given super chat, positively interacting, sharing the broadcast, and all the good things that you guys do when I go live, I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate you guys, because really, without great subscribers and great people and friends like yourselves, the channel really is nothing. So for it to grow and for it to flourish and stay in effect, you need someone to go live. You need someone like me to hit the go live, but I also, equally as important, need you guys. So I never take anything for granted, and I thank each and every one of you guys for, sending the questions, sending the comments at the end. I really love and respect that. I don't ever try to put, and if I do find myself out of line with the response that I give you, again, I will be the first to man up to it and apologize. Thank you, Bella Mia. Thank you, Chrissy. Janet, thank you so much. I will always be the first to say, my bad. You know what I mean? So, Mahid Alfro is in Saudi Arabia, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He is a good friend of mine from Saudi Arabia, and everybody please say hello to Mahid Alfro. He is right there. He's a great supporter of all of the YouTube and Periscope community, so thank you for coming in. You have a parrot. That's great, Ron. Yes, Charlie, I have a 31-year-old African gray parrot. This has been very fascinating. Thank you. And thanks to Tori for the recommendation. Thank you, Mary Westenberg. I greatly appreciate it. I hope I've won your friendship and support and subscription to my channel. And if I haven't, then I will continue to do the best I can to gain that from each and every one of you. So I value you guys like it's very important to me. I value you guys as viewers. I don't take it for granted. And like I said, it's a two-way street. Without someone hitting the live button and giving you a live interactive broadcast, we got nothing. Without you guys watching, then I'll be sitting here talking to my phone by myself. So I appreciate that. Guys, and much love and respect from Duty Ron. I'm going to sign off. I got some work to do. So I'm going to wish you guys all a great Tuesday. Today is Tuesday here in the US of A. It is 12:56 in New York City. Crystal, Veggie Vibes, Hio, Joey _67 from Periscope, my great friend. There he is, Joey BKLYN _67. Guys, if you want to do me a favor, go subscribe to Joey Brooklyn's channel. There he is, my great friend Meg. Love and respect to you, Meg. Thank you so much. Darlene, thank you for always looking out for me. A fellow Long Islander right there, Darlene Wolf. Greatly, greatly appreciate you. So guys, love and respect. Maddie, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Joey BKLYN _67. Please guys, go and subscribe. Hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, and also don't forget to go to my website, check out my website, and subscribe on Twitter and Instagram if you want to see more of me. And thank you to all my Patreon guys. So guys, God bless. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace from Duty Ron.